Okay, I got to tell you this random story. So I walk my dog a lot out in the nature park by our house, and I was walking past this tree, and there was a random yellow bird in the tree, and it literally stopped me in my tracks because there were no other birds in the tree, just this bright yellow bird. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so cool. But also immediately my brain went to branding and how that applies. So I've even thought about naming one of our brand design projects as the Yellowbird branding because it did actually get me to stop. And that's the whole goal of branding is to stop people from scrolling if you're on social media or even stop people from being distracted with other things and read your blog or read your newsletter based on how you're approaching your market. And so I thought it was such a good analogy or metaphor for branding is be the yellow bird. So that was one thing I just want to talk about. And I also think people miss the plot often with branding. They just kind of cut, paste messaging, vision, mission. They don't really think about how they're approaching their market. They don't sometimes even have a strategy, which is a problem. And you show up in your marketplace full of noise already, and you're a beige bird. I don't even know if there is a beige bird, but for the example of this metaphor, a beige bird, or let's say just like a blah bird. So if you're on a walk and you're walking past a tree and there's a yellow bird and then there is a beige bird, what's going to get your attention? Obviously, the yellow bird. And so I think it's important to take that metaphor and apply it to our clients and even just for our future clients. We focus heavily on getting your brand to stand out. I'm a big fan of the book Zero to One Offer by Peter Thiel, who is the founder of PayPal. Obviously, has some credibility in this space of entrepreneurship and building companies that scale. And I think one of his big important notes about that book is to create your own lane. And I think about this yellow bird example, and it's very similar. That bird created its own lane. I don't think it intentionally tried to get my attention. But it just made me think about, that is branding. That is branding. You've got something that is unique to you. And like the 0 to 1 offer, you create your own lane. You're not copycatting someone else. You're literally showing up with purpose, with your brand messaging at the forefront, but also creating a scroll stopping message slash identity that will get people to pay attention. And that is so important when you're trying to compete in a very noisy market. And I also think that's something that we do very well at Tribe. And so, it's not easy to know how to stand out. You may have this great innovation and you just feel like I'm just going to build a website and people are just going to come and flock and buy my product. But that actually doesn't happen 100 times over. 10 out of 10, that doesn't happen. So, how you win is to create a bold brand. You don't want beige, right? You want to be yellow and you want to be consistent in your messaging, arrive with confidence, and also solve a really big problem. I think a lot of oftentimes brands, they blend in because they don't stand out with what they're actually solving. They're either not solving a big enough problem or they haven't really clearly identified who they are and how they're showing up and what they're bringing to the table that's unique for them. So I think all of these things are something that, if you're working with a brand consultancy like Tribe Agency, this is what we do for a living. All of us have years of sales and marketing experience. And obviously, sales and marketing is all about influencing people to do something that they would have otherwise not done. And I think with that experience and also just understanding how to create a brand that is like a yellow bird, that takes skill, takes strategy, takes focus. And oftentimes we're so busy on our innovation or our companies, we're really not thinking about standing out. We're just trying to think about getting content out. And I have a whole other conversation to be had about just noise in the market of social media. Don't do it. Resist the urge of just creating noise. Really focus on maybe it's a day that you need to just focus on your strategy. What is the problem you're solving? How are you solving it in a unique manner where you are the yellow bird in your industry? And then how are you showing up with your identity? Because Brand, has multiple components to it. It has your identity, but it has your voice, which is your messaging, but then it also has the experience. How do people experience your brand? How do you show up? What's your personality? There's so many factors that create this Yellowbird brand, but I just thought that was such a random thing. I've literally never seen a Yellowbird before, and I bet you haven't either. If you're listening and you have a company or you're even running at the helm of the company, think about, are you the Yellowbird or are you the beige bird? Are you blending in or are you standing out? These are all things you need to really think about and distill it down. And if you need help, obviously, there are plenty of people that can help you in this. We work specifically with med tech executives and startups and early stage companies, or even growth companies for that matter. And we really start with the why behind their brand. We focus on what matters to them, what problem they're solving, how do they show up uniquely. And then we help them tell their story in a very effective Yellowbird brand way.